Hey there, Arin Darcan here again, and today I want to talk to you about a really important asset for your business, whether you want to automate or try and scale it, and they are SOPs. SOPs stand for Standard Operating Procedures, and I'm going to share my screen and show you exactly why and how they're so important. So first of all, I'm going to explain exactly what are SOPs. So what are SOPs? Essentially what they are is an instructions document on how to carry out certain procedures and certain processes within your company. It literally can be a Google document with screenshots and step-by-step instructions. And what you want to do with these is that you want to make sure they're as simple as possible and they explain as much as possible. What you don't want to have is any ambiguity with... Ambiguity? Is that the right word? Ambiguity. What you want to make sure is there's no ambiguity with your SOPs. You want to make sure they're super clear and easily able to be followed by literally anyone who's got a brain. I'd even use the analogy of seeing if your grandma could do it, right? If your nan can do it, then the SOP is good enough. If your nan couldn't do it, then I'd make it even simpler. Essentially, like I said, it's a step-by-step instruction document. So let's say you've got an e-commerce store. You need to check what sales have come through, make sure you've got the unit in stock, make sure there's no fraud on the credit card, and make sure that everything seems like it should. So step one could be log in to Shopify. Again, I know it sounds super simple. We want to break it down as simple as we can because otherwise what ends up happening is people ask questions about the SOPs. And people are asking questions, that kind of defeats the whole purpose of them in the first place. Because if people have to ask questions, you might as well just explain it to them in the first place anyway. So you want to make sure that you can actually explain it in a really simple term that there's literally no questions about your SOPs. It's that clear, right? So log into Shopify, maybe even include the link, www.shopify or whatever it is.com. Step two, then what you want to do is maybe go to the orders tab, right? I want to see if there's any new orders. I'd include a screenshot here as well. So I'd go to the point where it's literally like click on the orders tab on the left. And then I'd include here a screenshot. Oh, terrible line. So include a screenshot of maybe where it says like home here or something, right? And then it says like product, right? And then it says like orders here. And then I'd highlight this bit and I'd put that in the SOP. So then people can see exactly there might be another orders button somewhere around which you don't want them to click on. You literally take a screenshot of the entire screen and highlight the orders part. So it's so easy. When you're going through this SOP, you can see exactly what needs to be done and exactly where to click. This is essentially what an SOP is. So why are they so important? Let's say you have a member of staff who currently takes care of one of your procedures. Whatever the procedure is, it's all in your team member's head. They're the only ones that know how to do it. They're great at what they do a really great job, and there's no problems whatsoever. But what happens if they fall sick one day? What happens if they get hit by a bus? What happens if they get really pissed off with you for whatever reason, and they decide to quit and just leave? If they're the only ones that know how to do it, or maybe you know how to do it as well, that then relies on you having to do that task. And if you've got to get someone else in, you've then got to train them up. It might take a week or two to train the member of staff up, and that's obviously wasted time. And if you've got more than one member of staff, it can take a lot more than 2 weeks. If you've got to train up multiple members of staff, all the different questions, maybe you've got a whole warehouse and you've got 20 members of staff, maybe COVID hits and you've got to, for some reason, replace a few of them, then if you're having to do it all yourself as the owner, you'll become a huge bottleneck. You won't be able to scale properly. You can't automate the company properly. If you're on holiday at the time or anything like that, it's just the whole thing screwed up, right? And especially if you want to sell the company, if an investor wants to buy your company off you, then they're not going to be like, they don't want to have to rely on you. Like, that's not a good way of doing things at all. They're not going to want to buy the company because the company relies on you. So what happens if something happens to you? The investor suddenly loses all their money. The company's worthless. So SOPs stop all of that. What ends up happening is that you have one SOP which explains how to do certain procedures. When you have someone that has to be replaced or you have to hire a new member of staff, all of a sudden they can literally just follow this instructions manual that tells them how to do their job on a day-to-day basis. And don't get me wrong, there are going to be some questions. There are always going to be questions. But the beauty of it is, when they do ask you a question, that means the SOP isn't clear enough. And if the SP isn't clear enough, that means you want to go in and work out what the actual question is. All the time, with my SOPs, I'll find a problem with it. I'll be asked a question. I'll be thinking, I assumed I'd know that because of this, but that wasn't actually true. So when you run it through people, you're going to find so many holes in your SOPs. You've got to go in and plug the holes and change things. And sometimes it's a case of actually just saying to the member of staff, you haven't read this properly. I know you haven't read this properly. So go back through, read it again. Because that's also another thing. We actually at one point had to have an SOP which explained how to read SOPs. Because people were skim reading them. They weren't reading them properly and missing really key information. And even though we made things bold and highlighted things to try and make it as clear as possible, people still weren't properly reading the SOPs. So we had to write an SOP about how to read SOPs, which was just kind of ridiculous, but that's what was needed. So every time we get asked any questions or any holes or anything that come up, we go back into the SOP, we make the changes. Then over time, these SOPs become so solid, they become super solid, gets to the point where literally anyone can just follow them and it works really, really well. So what I want to do is quickly show you an example of an SOP so you can really see on a live basis how it works. So here's a quick SOP. This one's how to set up Slack for a new project manager. This is one of the onboarding processes that we have to have. If we hire a new project manager, then we need to make sure that we can set them properly up on Slack, set them properly up on Asana, set them properly up on Basecamp. And obviously without any sort of SOPs, how does someone know how to do this properly? Things will be missed, things won't be done properly, things won't be done on time. So this is a really quick example of an SOP for you, right? So as you can see here, how to set up Slack for a new PM. The card will show how to set up a new PM on Slack. As you go down, it tells you exactly what to do. Log into the Hawk Reach Slack channel. So you click on this, you log in. Scroll down to the very bottom of all the channels and direct messages and click on the plus to invite people. Type in the new PM's Hawk Reach email address and their first name only. Again, so it shows a very clear how to screenshot, how to do this. I won't read through the whole thing. As you keep going through, it's literally a step-by-step instruction document on how to set up Slack for a new PM. And I hope you understand that SOPs are needed for every part of the company. This will be used for setting up Facebook ad accounts. You might need an SOP for setting up a salesperson. You need an SOP for how to handle client complaints. Anything in the company should have an SOP associated to it. And don't get me wrong, there are going to be some SOPs which you can try and explain the best you can, but ultimately it comes down to the initiative of the person. Some things are very high level tasks and you can't break it down into an SOP. For example, sales. You're on a sales call, you might give a script, you might give some hints and some tips and things like that, but you can't have an SOP for a sales call. It's up to the skill of the salesperson to use their initiative and be able to know what to say at the right times and that help close the sale. That you can't put into an SOP. And so as you go up the ladder, as you start using this sort of hitting the CEO level, there are some things which you just can't put into an SOP and you need to have a CEO. That's why these are very high level skills because they're not able to be copied and just replaced by some sort of SOP which anyone can just take and run with. So this is really important for when you want to scale the company. As you hire more team members, you need them to be able to follow some instructions and make sure you've got a universal process. And it also works for automation. If you own the company and you find yourself in a day-to-day grind a lot of the time and you want to be able to remove yourself from the company, this is what you need. Your team members need to be able to follow instructions without you telling them what to do every time. And this will be the solution for that. So if you are in the day-to-day grind and you're working in your business rather than working on your business, what steps do you need to take to be able to get you out of the grind? Well, the first thing is you need to start writing down what you do on a daily basis, right? Don't worry about writing in-depth SOPs right away. Just write down the action points that you do on a daily basis. This could literally look like, for example, maybe the first thing you do is send cold emails. Awesome. The second thing you do is manage Facebook ad account. Maybe another thing you do is email customers and clients. And then another thing you do is invoice customers and clients. Break it down into some simple bullet points on a day-to-day basis, what you do, or even on a weekly basis. Whatever you do to maintain the company or any tasks that don't really require much thinking, and it's more of just a doing activity. So list all of them, or you do on a day-to-day basis, the things that you are doing in the business, essentially. Once you've got that list written down, you can then start breaking it down into different action points. So maybe sending cold emails, what do you do on this? Or you log into your email, maybe there's a template you use, right? Maybe there's some sort of lead research that you've got to do. Break it down into smaller tasks, each of these things, and work out the things that you think will be easiest to delegate at the very beginning. Then take them, build the SOPs for them, like I said, a step-by-step instruction, and find a VA, find a team member who can take that over. Because the problem is the more time you spend in your business is the less time you ever spend working on your business. And on your business is a million times more important than working in your business. So I hope this helps. I hope this kind of gives you a bit of a breakdown into how SOPs should be used, why they're used, and what they actually are. And if you've got any questions, as usual, write in the comments below. Please like the video if you did like it. Please subscribe to my channel and I'll see you next time. Cheers.